All right, we're going to have a good time. We're going to have a good time today. We have a lot to talk about. It is Friday. It is December. Where are we? December 9th, I think. That's what today is. Yep, December 9th. And we are going to cover a couple of things today and several ahas, a new high in inventory. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about foreclosures. We're going to talk about what's on the market, like bank REO foreclosures. We're going to talk about are they up? Are they down? Are we, what exactly is happening with foreclosures? So this gives you an idea of what we're going to be covering today. So is 2007 versus 2022, are there some similarities? We're going to discuss that. And we're going to talk about inventory in the villages. So if you're thinking about moving, you're thinking about selling, this is really a good channel to be on, because it's going to help you understand what's going on with the marketplace. So I'm noticing a lot of people comment, even privately, they're sending me emails about what they're, thank you for the information that you're bringing to the table. I think that's important. I think that's what this is about, is really educating the public. I'm also getting, privately, some emails from agents as well, some local realtors, not just in my own company, but also outside, like actually competitor folks. So maybe I should have them invite them to the company and join us. But that's all good too, because I think if we can all be a little bit more educated as a realtor community, I think that's important. So we can educate the public. So we can educate the public in a way that's not going to be self-serving, where it's like, oh, I'm going to paint a picture that's going to say, you know what, now's the perfect time to buy, now's the perfect time to sell. I think that's the wrong attitude. And I think just understanding where things are, I think, is really, really important. And of course, if you do have questions, you can put it in the chat. Be happy to answer any questions live, because I do this live, and then obviously gets posted. You can watch this later on YouTube directly. And please like the video, and if you would, please subscribe as well. That'd be absolutely fabulous. So let's cover a lot of things have happened over the last couple of years. And of course, just like anything else in business and in real estate, things are changing. Sometimes they change really slowly, but sometimes they change relatively fast. And I think that's what we've seen. If we're doing a little bit of a recap of 2022, is we've seen a rapid change in inventory. And some people are like, super pessimistic and saying, the real estate market is going to crash, and it's going to be 40, 50%, it's going to be blood in the streets. And I don't think that's what we're seeing, but we are seeing a lot of price decreases. The values of properties in the villages have gone down, but we've seen this before. We've seen this play before. A lot of people haven't in the villages, but the reality is that the last time this happened, this was back in the 2007 to 2010 period, where we did see prices go down, right? We did see those go down, and what we saw back in that day is 15% down. And I wouldn't be surprised if we, obviously we're pretty much there, I think, about 10 to 15% down from the spring. And I'm not talking about sales, I'm talking about pricing off the peaks. And there's a lot of numbers that can be really confusing. In other words, you can look at average sales price and say, well, the prices are about the same, and they haven't gone down. And depending on who you're looking at, and there's a lot of different reports about this, whether it's NAR, whether it's IB Zelman, whether it's Credit Suisse or Bank of America, and there's different, Zillow, Realtor.com, there's a lot of different sources where you can actually get prognostications on this. But I can say overall, based on what I'm seeing, and we're right in the front lines on the street, we've seen price reductions. However, the price reductions are not equaling. We're not at the point, and not to say we won't get there, but I don't think we will, but maybe, you never know. We're not quite at the point at prices going down to pre-COVID pricing. In other words, whatever the price was for a gardenia or an iris or whatever you have back in 2019, we're significantly higher today in valuation, and significantly lower than where we were 8 months ago. So we're somewhere in between for sure. And I think understanding that as a seller, I think is really, really important. We're not at, spring 2022 market pricing, and we're not at 2019 pricing. So education for sellers, you're thinking about putting your home on the market, make sure you're choosing someone that understands the numbers intrinsically. It is really, intricately, so understand that for sure. But let's look at, the first thing I want to look at is, let's look at the question of, foreclosures, because people, there's, the blood in the streets question, or, exclamation is definitely out there, and then, housing crash and that type of thing. So let's take a look at what we're really seeing out there. Okay, here's the truth. So, let's look at foreclosures, right? Where foreclosures are definitely up, right? Foreclosures are definitely up, but they're near record lows. In other words, we've seen an increase, and these are national numbers, right? And then I'm going to make it hyper local in a minute. So, national numbers, and we know, looking at the past, 2003, we saw 745,000 foreclosures in and around the country, and then of course, the high of 2009, no big surprise, real estate depression, economic severe recession during those three-year period there, where you're seeing the red bars, like 2 million. That's a big number, right? Like, that's a big number to actually have when you're looking at foreclosures. And of course, subsequently, as interest rates leveled off and demand rose, right, and the economy got better, people were working again, we saw much more demand. And of course, those foreclosures dried up because the prices started to go up, and there was a big enough difference between what people owed and the actual price. Now, during that 3-year period, and this is a period, I'm not speaking from, I'm speaking from experience on this, and not only personally, but also, I bought a lot of real estate, from 1998 on, where I bought properties in 2006, and it didn't look very attractive 2 to 3 years later. In fact, looking at it, I was upside down. Like, I owed more than what the property was worth. And many people were in this boat too, where people were upside down. And some people said, it's okay, I'm going to hold on to the property, I'm going to continue, which is, a lot of what we did. But some people couldn't afford the payments any longer. And the problems that we saw back, and if you recall, many of you remember, some of you may not, back in 2007, 8, 9, many people, or actually, let me take you before that, 2004, 5, 6, many people bought homes with zero down, very little credit, and basically mortgages and money lending was very loose. The standards and the strategies, not criticizing anybody, it just was very loose, where people could, almost anybody could buy a home, and many times they bought multiple homes and investment properties, and hoping that there was a lot of leverage going on, and lots of hope that the properties in flipping, that the properties were going to keep going up, and I could make $25, $50, $75, $100,000 quickly within a year. And then when the market shifted, and these people said, wait a second, I'm trying to buy a home at 200,000, for example, and they bought it and thinking they're going to flip it because the market was doing this, and it's going to be 225, 250 in about 3 to 6 months or a year. And instead now it's 175, and the mortgage payment is higher than what I can rent it for. So why am I paying out several $100s a month and it's worth less? What am I doing? So some people held on until they couldn't. There was so much of that, right? That's the picture I'm painting here. Like, this is actually real stuff, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, people I was working with as a realtor during those times, that's exactly what happened. Now, as you proceed further, if you start looking at the chart and say, okay, now we're looking at foreclosures going down. 2021, when the market was absolutely bananas, and I think 2021 is very similar to 2006, because that's exactly like bananas. Everybody's buying, everybody's selling. Woo, 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 let's take advantage of the marketplace, and there was a frenzy. 2006, very similar to 2021, and then 2022 has a lot of similarities to 2007, because we're seeing for the first time for the first time since 2007, price reductions, like real depreciation of values right now. Doesn't matter where you are, villages included. Now, the difference is, and this is, the saving grace is that there's some real differences, okay, which we definitely need to look at. So let's take a look at that. We're going to take a look at, all right, what are the differences? What are those differences? So if we look at it, here's the argument here. All right, this is a major point when we're looking at the differences between 2007 and 2022 and moving into 2023, because I feel like there's going to be similarities in 2023 to 2008. Similarities, I'm not saying same, but because of the trends, right? 7, 8, 9, 10. I think we're going to, next couple of years going to be very similar to the next 2 to 3 years. Based on foreclosures, we're probably going to see an increase in foreclosures because people that bought in 2021, maybe they've lost their jobs or something of that nature. But I don't see a large impact in our community, except if they did a reverse mortgage, because reverse mortgages can be super tricky. Most of the foreclosures we see in the villages, by the way, are reverse mortgage related, right? But by that time, typically, the people have unfortunately passed away, and it's not typically an issue. And then it reverts back to the bank, right? There's no equity. They've tapped everything out. There's a lot of things at play there. But here's the chart when you're looking at a drop in tappable equity, and we're going to put this in perspective. Okay. And I think this is really important. This is important nationwide, but it's really important when we're looking at, okay, what's happening in the villages. So let's take it nationwide. Then we're going to bring it to the micro, and we're going to bring it back to the village. So macroeconomically, there's more equity right now in homes nationwide than there was back in 2007, 8, 9. And we know, look, they call the villages the bubble, but there are some, we're in a bubble, yes, but we're really not in a way, because everybody that buys is selling something else typically, and that market, wherever they're coming from, is affected. We're all interrelated, right, to the economy. But when you're looking at the tappable equity here, look at this. So not much equity in 2008, 9, and 10. And in fact, back in 2005, it gives you a number, $4.9 trillion of equity nationwide. And you go all the way to 2021, 9.9 trillion, early part of 2022, Q1, Q2, right, into the spring, early summer, the peak in equity. And of course, from then on, we start seeing price reductions. So when you compare, where we are now, Q3, we're in Q4, but these are the Q3 numbers, Q3 number compared to Q2 number in equity, that's a big drop. But we also have to recognize we've never seen this kind of change in interest rates and rapid movement by the Fed, and it was like really quick turnaround here. Even back in 2006, it took a couple of years before it's like from 2006 to 2009, it was this cliff that we're falling in, but it was more gradual. This has been a quick, precipitous drop. Okay, so this tells you that more people have more equity. That's basically, in a nutshell, that's what this says. More people have equity than they ever have before in and around the country. So now let's take a look at what that means for the villages. So what that means in the villages, typically we know that more than 50% of the buyers in the villages, first of all, pay cash. The other 50%, out of that, a good 45%, right, will do financing, but financing with a lot of money down, 10%, 20, mostly 20 to about 50% down. That's typically what we see in the villages. Okay. The other 5% or less, you're pretty much looking at maybe FHA, VA, and that's probably going to be about 2% at most, right? There's a handful of FHAs, Mostly what we see, the remainder are going to be VA, and even the VA mortgages, you could put money down. They're not always 0% down. So if you have questions about that, you can put it in the chat. And by the way, also you can connect with me 352-572-3796. I want to show you now foreclosures in the villages. Let's take a look at that. Okay. And this is, I guess this is the argument that, we're going to see, we are seeing bumpy times right now in real estate. Not terribly shocking, thinking about what's happened. And we're going to continue to see bumpy times. We'll see. I'm hearing a lot of, there's rumors and things of like interest rates are going to go down. Interest rates have gone down over the last 3 weeks, and I think that's helped the market. Some people, I'm hearing both sides, that interest rates are going to go up, some are going to go down. I don't know. Who knows? It's hard to really really time markets. I suspect that we could go up again and then we might come down. I think there's going to be a lot of zigzag movement. So just something to think about. And of course, that impacts our marketplace tremendously. So if we are, let's start looking at what's happening in the villages specifically. Okay. So let's go here. So this is actually what we're seeing right now is there are 5 properties, to give you the extent of foreclosures in the villages right now. Okay, 5 properties that have been under or in, I shouldn't say in foreclosure, because let me define that. So in foreclosure, if you say, well, a property is in foreclosure, it just means that people haven't made their payments, and that's usually after a couple of months they haven't made payments, and the bank decides that they are going to sue the current owner of the property for not making payments, and that starts the foreclosure process. It's basically called a lis pendens, right? It's a legal term for the bank suing the owner and saying, okay, you owe us money, you need to pay us, or we're going to take the property back. And then, not getting into too much legal mumbo jumbo on this, but it could take 6, 8, 10, 12 plus months to go through the process, depending on a lot of things. So that's what that technically means. But what we're seeing here is now we're seeing the process has gone through its process. It's already been foreclosed on. So now we're talking about a foreclosure, and the property is now owned by the bank. And these are the 5 properties that are either active, pending, aka under contract, or closed, sold over the last 6 months, 180 days, 5 whopping properties in the villages. So we're not seeing a ton of foreclosures. 1 is pending in Dustin Drive, 2 Mark Drive, and Agua Way sold. So we got 2 properties that are currently for sale that are foreclosures. 1, they're actually both manufactured housing, mobile homes. 1 is on Pompano Lane, the other one is Industrial Drive. 1 is going for $159, the other one is $240. If you're interested in it, call me or text me, by the way, 352-572-3796. We can help you through the process, or if you need more of a definition as to what a foreclosure is and how to deal with it. Unfortunately, I had a lot of experience with this in 2007 through 2011, 12. Short sales, foreclosures, and none of it is easy. But I think I had a lot more hair back then until all of that happened. So that's that. That gives you an idea of what's going on in the villages. Questions, put them in the chat. Please like the video and subscribe. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Hope everybody enjoyed the parade, the golf cart parade in the villages last weekend. And we got the Ocala parade that's happening tomorrow, in fact. So a couple other things. Actually, one more thing I want to bring up is that 2 things, really. So 1, remember, we mentioned this last time, we're doing we're donating a bunch of money to buy bikes for the children of Wildwood, which is the community next to the villages, and there's a lot of needy kids that need bikes for Christmas. We're doing that. So if you're interested in helping out with that, you can call our office at 352-753-7500, 352-753-7500, and you can talk to Laurie at the front desk, and she can help you out with that. And of course, we'll give you a shout out if you want to, or if you want to do it anonymously, that's okay too. But the last thing is a big thing that's happened. A big thing that's happened is we've crossed over the 300 market inventory in the villages. First time that's happened in a couple of years. So we're seeing increase in inventory. It keeps going up. It seems like it's gradual, but in a way, but it's actually kind of fast because it's happened over the last 8, 9 months. 300 homes on the market. So we'll keep an eye on it. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Take care.